You say you want success? You pray for rain, asking the skies to pour down opportunities, wealth, recognition. But have you ever paused to ask yourself what comes with that rain? Everyone wants to win, but very few are willing to face what winning demands. Let me ask you, what are you really asking for when you dream big? Because the truth is, every dream comes with a price tag. And success? It's never handed out for free. The moment you stretch your arms toward the sky, begging for the storm of blessings to begin, life responds not just with rain, but with mud. The slippery, messy, ugly mud that comes with effort, with struggle, with failure, with sleepless nights and painful rejections. That's the part nobody posts on social media. That's the part people hide because it doesn't look pretty. But that mud is the price of the rain you ask for. People love to pray for change, for breakthrough, for abundance. But let's be honest, how many are ready for the grind, the sacrifice, the moments when nothing makes sense? You can't grow without discomfort. You can't rise without resistance. Every single success story that inspired you, the billionaires, the icons, the legends, they all had one thing in common. They paid in time, in sweat, in failure. They didn't just ask for rain. They accepted the storm that followed. They got muddy. They fell, slipped, got back up, and pushed again. Why? Because they understood that success demands sacrifice. They weren't surprised by the mud. They expected it. And that's the difference between wishful thinking and true desire. Success is expensive, not in money, but in mindset. It costs your excuses. It costs your comfort zone. It costs the version of you that wants everything easy. If you're still searching for shortcuts, you haven't really decided to win. Because real winners, they don't just want the rain. They're mentally prepared for the aftermath. They know the road will test them. They know the price of elevation is pressure, and they pay it, willingly, again and again. So when you say you want more, remember, more requires more of you, not less effort, not less pain, but more responsibility, more patience, more faith. The bigger the vision, the heavier the burden that comes with it. This is the side no one warns you about when you're setting goals and writing visions. So the next time you pray for rain, stop and ask yourself, am I ready for the mud? Am I ready for the part that's not glamorous? Am I built for the mess that comes before the miracle? Because if you're not really ready for success. You're in love with the idea, not the reality. You think struggle means you're on the wrong path. Let me challenge that thinking right now. What if the very resistance you're feeling is the proof that you're finally moving in the right direction? Everyone wants clarity, ease, signs from the universe that they're doing it right. But what if the sign is the challenge? What if the difficulty isn't a warning? It's a confirmation. See, most people misunderstand what pain and pressure really mean. They think, if it's hard, it must not be for me. But the truth is, the closer you get to something powerful, the more resistance you face. Not because you're failing, but because you're being forged. Challenges aren't punishments. They're invitations to step into the next level of yourself. They're the fire that melts the old version of you, so the real you can rise. You ever notice how easy things come when you're not aiming for anything meaningful? That's not coincidence. That's comfort. The path of least resistance never leads to greatness. It leads to mediocrity, to playing small, to regret. But the moment you decide to stretch, to grow, to become something more, that's when life starts to press back. It's like a test. Are you serious or are you just saying words? Because talk is cheap. Everyone's talking about chasing dreams. Few are walking through the storms required to reach them. If you're facing adversity right now, don't run from it. Recognize it. This is the battlefield where your character is sculpted. This is where your mindset is sharpened. And this is where your future is decided. Not when things are easy, but when everything screams quit, and you choose to keep moving anyway. And here's the twist: most people miss the mud you're complaining about, the weight you're tired of carrying. That's exactly what builds you. That's where your strength lives. The struggle isn't a distraction, it is the path. If you're avoiding it, you're avoiding growth. The gym doesn't work without resistance. Muscles aren't built without tearing fibers. And life doesn't elevate you without breaking you a little. That breakdown, that mud, that chaos, it's not the end. It's the construction zone of greatness. You wanted elevation? Then you've got to go through excavation. You've got to dig, sweat, fall, get back up, and repeat the cycle. Because real growth lives in repetition, not just revelation. So stop being surprised by the mess. Start seeing it as the process. That moment when you're tired, when nothing makes sense, when you question everything, that's the exact moment you're evolving. And most people miss it. They tap out too soon. They give up because they mistook challenge for failure. But the few who understand this secret, they rise, they win, they endure. Not because it's easy, but because they've made peace with the mud. They know that without pressure, diamonds are never formed. Without friction, there's no fire. Without the storm, there's no strength. Everyone talks about chasing their dreams until they're knee-deep in the mud. That's when the truth comes out. That's when most people fold. Not because they didn't want it, but because they didn't expect the mess. They prayed for rain, but weren't ready to get dirty. They imagined a smooth road, not a battlefield. And when the mud shows up, the delays, the setbacks, the rejections, they panic. They think, maybe this isn't for me. But let me tell you something that separates the dreamers from the doers. Most people quit in the mud, but the champions, they move through it. They don't complain. They don't make excuses. They adapt, they adjust, and they push. While the rest are looking for dry ground, they're digging deeper, clawing forward, one painful step at a time, because they understand something the average mind can't grasp. The mud is necessary. The mud is where winners are made. If you only fight when it's easy, you'll never be strong when it counts. Champions are not defined by how they perform when things are smooth. They're defined by how they keep going when everything feels like it's falling apart. And that's the truth no one wants to hear. Everybody wants the crown, but no one wants the crawl. No one wants to admit that this path will humble you, break you, test you in ways you never imagined. But the real ones, they show up anyway, not with fake confidence or perfect plans, but with grit. They don't wait for motivation. They move with discipline, because they know that the mud is not a punishment. It's preparation. It's building something in them that can't be bought, taught, or faked. And here's the kicker. Discomfort is not the enemy. It's the compass. Most people treat discomfort like a stop sign. The moment it gets hard, they retreat. They search for the path of least resistance. But the successful ones, they treat discomfort as a signal, a green light. They lean in, because they understand that the very feeling you're trying to avoid, that pressure, that fear, that uncertainty, is the exact thing that's shaping you. Discomfort isn't meant to destroy you. It's meant to reveal you. It pulls off the mask. It exposes whether you're serious or just pretending. It forces you to either rise or run. When you step into discomfort with intention, it starts to work for you. It becomes your teacher, your trainer, your mirror. It strips away your ego and reveals your true potential. That voice in your head telling you to quit, that's your old self fighting to survive. That's fear trying to protect you from growth. But growth never lives in safety. It lives in the stretch, the push, the struggle. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not evolving. And if you're not evolving, you're stuck, even if it looks like progress. That's the trap most people fall into. They confuse movement with growth. But the ones who truly grow, they live in the discomfort. They master it, because they've learned to recognize it not as pain, but as proof they're becoming something greater. You keep saying you want more, but are you willing to become more to receive it? That's the part no one talks about. People make vision boards. They journal. They manifest. But they forget the one unshakable truth of life. If you want something greater, you must transform into someone greater. You can't drag your old habits, your lazy thinking, your comfort zone mindset into a new level of success. Life won't allow it. The door to your next level is locked, and the only key is growth. You don't just get what you want, you get what you are. So if you're still procrastinating, blaming, avoiding the hard stuff, then don't be surprised when nothing changes. The version of you that wants it and the version of you that can handle it are not the same person. Something has to break. Something has to evolve. Something has to die for something greater to be born. The problem is, people want to skip that part. They want to hold on to their excuses and still move forward. But you can't carry weakness into a storm and expect to come out a warrior. If you're asking for more money, more influence, more impact, understand that every single one of those comes with responsibility. It comes with more pressure, more decisions, more demand on your energy and focus. And if you don't develop the mindset and the character to carry that weight, it will crush you. That's why life delays certain blessings. It's not denying you, it's preparing you. And if you resist that preparation, if you dodge the hard moments, you delay your own breakthrough. Adversity is not your enemy. It's the soil in which your character grows. Think about that. You can plant seeds of dreams, but without the right soil, without pressure, resistance, heat, nothing will grow. Adversity is where you meet yourself. It's where your values get tested, where your vision gets refined. You don't find out who you are when everything's going well. You find out who you are when you're under fire, when your back's against the wall, and you have every reason to quit but don't. That's the version of you that success is waiting for. That's the version of you that can handle the rain and the mud. People love to romanticize success, but they don't talk about the process that creates it. And the process is never clean. It's full of frustration, failure, uncertainty. But inside that adversity is your real training ground. That's where you learn resilience, focus, hunger. The world doesn't reward your potential. It rewards your development. You want to be trusted with more. Be willing to grow through more. Every struggle is like a weight in the gym. You can complain, or you can lift. But just like in the gym, you don't grow unless it's heavy. And when you finally realize that adversity is not blocking your path, it is the path, you'll stop running from it and start using it to become who you were born to be. You can't always control what life throws at you, but you can control how you respond. You can't stop the rain, but you can train your mind to walk through the mud without losing your direction. That's the truth most people ignore. They wait for perfect conditions. Wait for the rain to stop. Wait for the road to clear. But life doesn't work like that. Life throws storms when you least expect them. The question is, what's your mindset when everything gets messy? Do you collapse? Do you blame? Or do you adapt? Because if you don't master your mind, the mud will master you. And that's where most people fail. Not because of the storm, but because they never built the inner strength to walk through it. They let frustration win. They let emotions run the show. But the few who win in life, they train their mindset like a weapon. They know that chaos doesn't have to control them. They decide who they are before the storm hits. Mindset isn't a motivational quote on your wall. It's a daily discipline. It's how you talk to yourself when nothing's going right. It's the ability to look at a muddy, broken situation and say, I'm still going. That's power. That's mental toughness. And the truth is, it's available to anyone. But it costs your excuses. It costs your comfort. If you're not in charge of your inner world, your outer world will always defeat you. The weather outside can be wild, but what matters is what's happening inside your head. That's what separates leaders from followers. Champions don't just train their body. They train their focus, their patience, their persistence, because they know that every storm has an end, but only those who keep walking get to see it. And here's another truth. People run from desire without discipline is just a wish. You can want the world, but if you're not willing to work for it consistently, you'll never get it. Discipline is what bridges the gap between your dreams and your reality. It's not about feeling motivated every day. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it, because that's where the real power lives. Most people fail not because they don't have potential, but because they never develop the discipline to turn that potential into results. They start strong and fade fast. They chase motivation and ignore responsibility. Discipline is showing up when it's raining. Discipline is taking one more step in the mud when your legs are tired. It's the boring, unsexy stuff that no one claps for. But it's exactly what creates success. If you want freedom, you need discipline. If you want power, you need consistency. The more you master discipline, the less you depend on circumstances to move forward. You stop waiting for inspiration, and you become unstoppable through repetition. True thing is PCHF, and you become unstoppable through repetition. That's the secret the world won't tell you, because it's not easy, but it's always worth it. Everyone wants to talk about faith when the skies are blue and everything's going right. But faith doesn't mean anything when it's easy. Real faith shows up when everything looks like it's falling apart, when your plans collapse, when your timing gets delayed, when you're stuck in the mud and can't see a way out. That's when faith is tested. Not just what you say you believe, but what you do when the pressure hits. Anyone can talk strong when things feel good, but the moment life gets heavy, when the answers don't come, when the rain won't stop, most people shrink. They start questioning everything. They start blaming, doubting, quitting, because they never built real faith. They only had convenience. But the ones who rise, they hold on to belief when they have every reason to let go. They stay focused even when they don't see progress. That's not blind hope. That's trained faith. That's the kind of inner power you can't fake. It's forged through struggle, silence, waiting. And the world can't shake a person who refuses to stop believing. Faith is not a feeling. It's a decision. It's a mindset you adopt before the evidence ever shows up. It says, I don't need to see the outcome to trust the process. It says, I will walk through the storm even if I can't see the sun. Because when you have that kind of faith, the mud doesn't scare you anymore. The storm becomes your training ground. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start saying, what is this building in me? That shift changes everything. Because faith is not about being certain. It's about being committed, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That's what separates the few who finish strong from the many who fade away. And here's the truth most people aren't ready for. If you can survive the mud, the rain will always be worth it. But survival doesn't mean just breathing. It means showing up with purpose. It means learning, adapting, growing while you're in it. The mud is where the real work happens. The mud exposes the weak and reveals the strong. Everyone wants the reward, but few can handle the weight of the process. That's why the path to greatness is so narrow. It's not because success is rare. It's because persistence is rare. Grit is rare. The willingness to suffer, grow, and keep going through the mess. That's what makes the rain mean something when it finally comes. When you've walked through pain, when you've been broken and still chose not to break, when you've been stuck and still refused to quit, that's when the blessing finally lands. Not just the outer reward, but the inner transformation. Because by then you're not the same person who started. You're stronger, wiser, hungrier. You've earned it, not because you wished for it, but because you became the kind of person who could carry it. That's why the mud matters. That's why the rain has weight. Because when it finally falls, it won't drown you. It'll nourish what you built in the dark.